I'm Gerson Borrero. Welcome to another edition of City and State TV. Our guest today is Luis Sepúlveda, an assemblyman from the Bronx that is supposed to be the hot political county of New York State. Welcome, Assemblyman. How are you?
Hola, thank you very much for inviting me here. I appreciate coming here and talk about some of the important issues that we want to discuss.
Exactly. I want to go at some point during the conversation back to an issue that you first spoke to us about last year, which had to do with mental health, and it seems to have. So briefly, I want to touch upon that. I'm not going to come back. Let me deal with it right now. Okay. The situation has gotten to a point where it's also captured the interest of the First Lady of New York City, Charlene McRae, and she has been talking about it. But what did you do with the bill that you told the viewers of City and State TV that you were going to present? How is that moving? Have your colleagues in the Assembly been receptive to it? Where is that at right now?
Well, we're still pushing the bills. Unfortunately, the issue of mental health doesn't take the priority that I think it should take in the legislature and the governor with the budget. So you have certain individuals, it's something personal, that are pushing the agenda in the Senate. One of the things that we worked at was to increase the amount of funding available for mental health services, and I continue to work with Dr. Rosa Gill, who, by the way, I'm going to be honoring at the Puerto Rican Abrazo.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
And that's coming up, the Puerto Rican Abrazo. Please explain what the Puerto Rican Abrazo is, because it ties into the Puerto Rican Day Parade festivities.
Well, we actually do. Senator Diaz created the Abrazo movement. It's Abrazo, as you know, in English means embrace.
Or a hug.
A hug or an embrace. We do it for, we honor certain ethnic groups that are in our districts. We have the Garífono community that we do an abrazo for, the African American community, Dominican community, Puerto Rican community, and now we have the Bangladesh community. So we usually tend to focus on the emerging populations, and we honor them and we honor their culture. And we have a big event, usually at Maestros, and we present them with awards acknowledging the work that they've done on behalf of these communities. And we usually get about 800 to 1,000 people there. It's one of the hottest events in the Bronx.
So congratulations to Dr. Rosa Gil, who's done a terrific job, who happens to be Cuban also.
That's correct.
But she's a terrific person, has a long history. So the mental health situation now, are you hopeful that you'll get, or is it needed that personal experience, as in your case and the unfortunate situations that you experienced as a child with your mother? And it's in the interview we did originally, which probably you can find on our web. But your mother committed suicide. You have Charlene McRae now having a daughter who has some issues, and she's very familiar. Does it need does it need for everyone in the Assembly to have a person with mental health issues in order for them to get to? What is it that they don't get?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, when we talk about legislation and funding, you usually have a person or a set of persons, leaders, advocates, who can talk about their personal experiences, and that seems to bring it closer to home. When I've spoken now on several occasions about the fact that my mother took her life when I was 11 years old. A lot of the my members didn't know that until the interview on City and State, and so they start to develop a certain level of empathy.
Okay.
And so I think that continues to move. There are other issues where people can develop empathy, and that tends to move the needle forward. And so we're hoping that we can continue to do that. It's a lot of it is budget, it's monies, and so that's what we're pushing for.
It's always money.
Yes.
But it could always be reallocated. But let me move from there, because I think that there's something else that I find fascinating here that you're involved in, which is crime is always a concern, no matter how good things are. But also, I find in particular the creation, this bill that you have, and please, from the notes that I have, you're setting up a board for review of officer-involved deaths and near deaths. So this is again going to a very difficult problem for politicians to tackle with regards to law enforcement, and you usually get a pushback. Now, this bill, as I understand it, would establish a board that would review this, but the board's composition. Explain what do you intend to do with the bill? How is that supposed to relieve the problem, the distrust, and also it involves the DAs and what they can disclose about grand juries. So I imagine that this all has to do with the tragic situation of the death of Eric Garner, Mr. Garner in Staten Island.
Among other
things.
Yes, that's
Please,
right.
can you explain for
Well, first of all, this year, the chairman of the Black Puerto Rican Hispanic Caucus, Jeff Aubrey, and the sub-chair created a panel, that's Walter Mosley, created a subcommittee, a criminal justice subcommittee to review all the legislative proposals, to meet with advocates, to do our internal research, to come together with a package of criminal justice ideas, reforms, that we're going to present as a caucus and with the task force to the governor to say this is where we think we can impact and make significant changes in the criminal justice system in this country. We have almost 2.3 million prisoners in the United States, the largest by far of any population in the world. Of that amount, about 40% of that is African American men and women. If you add the Latino population, that number comes closer to beyond 50%. And even though African Americans and Latinos make up respectively about 14 to 16% of the population, they comprise an overwhelming number of prisoners in this country and in this state. We spend over $260 billion in criminal justice in this country, $80 billion in prisons. New York City alone spends almost $170,000 per prisoner. So imagine what we can do if, rather than focusing that money in prison, we can put it into education and diversionary programs. You would clean up the problem with criminal justice. A certain report now from the Brennan Center for Justice indicated that crime in this country the last 25 years has dropped significantly. Significantly. Yet the incarceration rates have increased, and it has not made us safer, one iota. So with that in mind, Chairman Aubrey in the caucus said, let's work on this, all right? So we came together with a holistic approach called Before, During, and After. Myself, Mike Blake, and Phil Ramos, who's another member of the subcommittee, and Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson. We comprise this idea of before, during, and after. What we do before so they don't get to prison. If they do get to prison, what do we do? And then when they're released from prison, the whole objective is to reduce recidivism. But of course, one of the hot topic issues was incidents where shootings with police officers are involved. Now, as a whole, none of us believe that police officers are inherently evil. We think that an overwhelming of them do a good job. But you have that issue with shootings where civilians are shot by police officers. There's an incredible level of distrust between the community, the police, and the district attorneys. The governor, with his budget, proposed something called an independent monitor. The independent monitor would review a grand jury proceeding where a police shooting is involved. And the independent monitor, though, would review it after the grand jury proceeding takes place and after there is a bill of indictment. In other words, we're going to charge a police officer. We discussed this option with the advocates. The advocates were vehemently opposed to it. In fact, the mothers of some of these men that were killed in police shooting met with the governor and pleaded with that they wanted a special prosecutor. Right. The governor, his complaint was that, for example, in the Eric Garner case, I don't know what was out there in the grand jury testimony, grand jury minutes. So it would be difficult for me to appoint a special prosecutor if I don't know, I'm blind. So his bill also had some components about presenting some of these grand jury testimony, evidence, and information to the independent monitor, who will then say, well, we think there should have been an indictment here. Or, an indictment here was the correct thing to do, either or. The problem is, it's not in real time. So the advocates say that's justice delayed. And justice delayed, we know, is no justice at all. On the legislative side, the Republicans in the Senate are vehemently opposed to any special prosecutor. And the district attorneys are vehemently opposed to any special prosecutor. So we look for something that's sort of like something in the middle that can satisfy, we hope, all parties involved. So what we've done, what my bill does, is create a panel, a pretty selective panel of people that are involved in criminal justice to review the evidence and the investigation that happens in real time. In other words, not after, but in real time. What happens is the state, within that bill, the state police will appoint two investigators to do a parallel investigation with the local authorities. So for example, if an NYPD officer shoots an individual who dies or comes near death.
Or chokeholds.
Near death. So,
Anything that,
anything
whether
that
it's
we can
shooting
catch.
or anything, any kind of manifestation of excessive force by a police officer, a shooting, that's all included in the bill that you're
That can
presenting.
be included within the
Okay.
description. So the NYPD will be allowed to do their investigation.
Right.
We don't want concurrent investigations because that leads to a mess. And we're lucky that one of the members of our subcommittee is Assemblyman Phil Ramos from Suffolk, who was a police officer for almost 40 years. Okay. So when it comes to those information, he's in a better position than I think most members in the caucus.
Phil was an officer for almost 40 years?
I believe it was almost 40 years. That's correct.
How old is Phil? Is he 70 or something? He looks.
I think he started at a very young age. But,
Okay.
But his expertise is invaluable. Invaluable. So he gives us a reality about investigations.
Okay.
So what we said, well, let's do a parallel investigation,
Gotcha.
where the state police will oversee what the police department is doing. And along with this bill is a bill that Ramos proposed to create procedures, statewide procedures for police to follow when there's a shooting involving a police and a civilian. So that now you have a checklist. Did you interview this person? Did you interview that person? Why didn't you interview this person? So with this checklist, it makes it easier for this panel that we're creating in my bill to look at what they did, whether they followed the procedures that we've legislated. They will gather all this information, and then they will determine whether they believe that there should have been a bill of indictment. They will make that there should be a bill of indictment. They will make the recommendation to the DA. Now, the DA has, within our legislation, still the ultimate say on what happens from that point forward. But we believe that if, in fact, the report that's created by this independent panel says there should be an indictment here, that a DA would be hard-pressed to explain why he or she takes a different position. So that keeps the DA, in terms of the process, somewhat grounded. DA can say, the independent panel can come back and say there shouldn't be an indictment, but the DA can still say, well, I believe there should be an indictment. So it gives the district attorney the flexibility, but it gives the public an avenue where the information is reviewed by this independent panel to say something's fishy here. Why wasn't there? We've recommended there should be indictment. Why wasn't there indictment?
I mean, it sounds. I'm trying to follow here that what you're laying out here without having the specific wording on the bill. Mm-hmm. But it seems to me that if I'm listening to this, am I an advocate or someone who's involved in trying to hold DAs and NYPD, in this case particularly, accountable for these type of excessive uses of force or result in near deaths or deaths or maiming, whatever. It sounds like another layer to me, Assemblyman. It just sounds like, another agency that's going to complicate matters, because you really can't force the way the law is structured here to force the DA. I mean, they're protected just like police officers are given all this power, which, by the way, it's legislators who give. People forget when, people say, oh, there's cops, and then I love it when I see elected officials, politicians standing and condemning the death of so-and-so by this police, but wait a minute, you're the one that empowered these police officers because they are the first line of defense. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it, but you understand, it gets a little complicated in my head. Maybe, I'm no legal expert, but maybe the wording, maybe we need to see the wording, but you're creating another layer, at least to my layman ears, and where's the trust factor? Where's it going to be? Where is it that you have the power to be able to force, like in the case, if this were already set up, let me give it some, let me put some rice and beans on the plate here, okay, so I can understand it. So, if this was already set as law, right, how would this have made difference what DA Dan Donovan did in the case of Eric Garner and the grand jury? Give me a specific example. If everything that you think has to be included is included in this.
Well, I mean, yes, but let's keep it within the political realities and context, right? We have a DA office, generally speaking, that is completely opposed to a special prosecutor. We have the advocates that are opposed to leaving the ultimate decision in the hands of the DA. And we have a Republican body in the Senate that is completely opposed to special prosecutors. with that context, if we take Eric Gardner, we would have had immediately, once the death happens, we would have had the state police send their investigators to Staten Island and allow the Staten Island NYPD, that precinct, to do their investigation. The state police will be reviewing everything that they're doing, who they're speaking with, what evidence is being filtered, and then that information will be presented to the independent panel, which is made up of people in law enforcement. One panel member would be, and by the way, it's everyone who's retired, no one who's currently in law enforcement, but retired judges, investigators, because we don't want the pressure, the political pressure. They're actually active right now.
How would this have made a difference in the Eric Gardner case?
Because today we don't know what happened in the grand jury proceeding in the Eric Gardner case.
What would this have been?
The information, all the information and evidence that the NYPD and Staten Island gathered would have been presented to this independent panel. The independent panel would have reviewed.
The DA Donovan would have been forced to hand it over to him?
Well, the NYPD would have been forced to hand over the information to the state police that they've gathered and the results of their investigation. They give it to the state police, who then presents it to the independent panel with their recommendation. The independent panel will then look at this and say, there should be an indictment.
What chances does this have of becoming law? Because I'm seeing here, and in addition to that, that's one question, and in this session, do you expect it to, and how much is it, because you talked about costs, everything is a dollar sign. How much would this cost to set up?
Well, I don't think it's a major cost. That's something that we're still analyzing.
What's major?
Well, for example, the state police already has the investigatory arms. They already have budgeting for that. So to do this, I mean, the reality is that one death involving a police officer is one too many, but it's not going to be something that happens every day. So the state police is already empowered and has the resources and know-how to do these parallel investigations. So it's not going to cost a lot of money.
That much more.
Right, that's correct. Now, they would have presented this information, and then they would have prepared a report, the independent panel, and give it to the DA. All right, now, it could be a hot potato. The DA says, well, this group of people that are qualified have said that I should indict.
I don't know, man, but I'm telling you, I'm trying to follow this. Maybe when you have the actual bill passed, I'm gonna have you back, because I can't grasp my brain around it. Maybe it's me, maybe our viewers can actually react and give you feedback. But I see activists saying, wait a minute, this is another.
Well, actually, I've spoken with.
Because it involves the people. You've spoken to activists, but it involves the people that we're having problems with. We being the community.
But the thing is that I've spoken with some of the advocates who actually like the bill.
Okay.
Because they don't want the structure that the governor created, the independent monitor, goes into effect only if there's a bill of no indictment. Then the independent monitor looks at it. It's delaying the justice.
Is the governor on board with this, or he hasn't even read the
Well, no, we send the caucus send a letter to the governor and with the package, and we still haven't received any feedback, but it was sent yesterday. Right, because our objective is try to get this out during
Can we
this
get
session.
a copy of City and State of what you said?
Oh, absolutely.
Please.
It'll be public information.
All right, we're running out of time here. I am going to have you back. This is fascinating, and it is an issue that is important. Before I go, because I'm wrapping my hands, now, you at one point, I'm going to go to the political side. I'm not going to let you go. I know you got limited time, and you, long weekend, Memorial Day weekend. We have, you at one point were a contender in the race. Go back to politics. I can't let you get away with it. Contender to be the chairman of the Bronx Democratic County Organization. You are a Democrat. That didn't pan out. You're happy with it. You're happy with Marco Crespo. You guys seem to be okay.
It depends on how you characterize a contender. I mean, I never said that I was a contender, but people...
But you're not denying that you were.
Well, people had asked me to throw my hat into the ring. Just like they could have asked other people. I'm honored that people thought that I had the capabilities and I would be a good county leader. But, I have a lot of, to be a county leader is a lot of work. I'm happy being a legislator. I'm happy being an advocate for now and doing a lot of the research that I'm doing on this topic.
Right.
And so I'm content, and I have a good relationship with Marcos.
Okay, great. And you have a great relationship with Carl Hasty and Marco Crespo and all that. But I've also heard some rumblings that you are interested in another type of office. Am I hearing things correctly that you are possibly running for a bigger office within the Bronx County, or is that accurate, or just rumors? bochinche político? Is it, you know,
Well,
that's political gossip?
The rumor is that I'm interested in running for district attorney. I mean,
Okay,
it is what
so
it is.
and
That's
are
why
you?
I've heard that rumor. Look, right now,
It starts somewhere, Assemblyman. Assemblyman Sepúlveda, are you running for DA or not?
right now I'm not running. As of right now, I'm not
Do
running.
you have an interest in that office?
In the future, I may have an interest. Look, understand something. I think to be a DA, you have to have the expertise, you have to have a law degree, and you have to have the passion. Criminal justice is my passion, along with mental health. Especially this experience in the subcommittee has given me knowledge beyond pale, information that I've gotten that I never would have gotten otherwise. I have a law degree. There are few of us in the legislature that do. In the Bronx, I believe myself and the new Assemblywoman Joyner are the only two legislators with law degrees in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. I believe I'm the only Latino with a law degree in the entire state legislature. In fact, in the entire state legislature of New York, I'm the only Latino with a law degree.
There's never been a Latino DA in. Oh, I think. Are you telling me that
There's never been a Latino DA in the state?
You've given some thought to this.
Of course, I would be lying if I didn't.
Okay.
But if I run, it's not because I want to be the first Latino, the only.
Okay.
I ran because I want to. If I were to do it in the future, it's because I want to do. I think I would be the best person for the job at that point if I were to run for DA, and so those are my considerations. You know, I have a family, I have a young child right now, but certainly if I did do it, it's because I think I'd be the best person.
On that note, Assemblyman Sepúlveda, you sure you don't want to tell us right now, did you?
No.
You haven't set up an exploratory
We haven't done
committee.
anything. You know, I've had conversations with Robert Johnson, and so we're in a good place right now.
You're in a good place? You think he's a good DA?
I think he's a good DA.
You do?
I think to some degree he is, yeah. You know, being a DA is a complex matter.
What does some degree mean?
Well, I mean, look, it's very difficult how you evaluate a DA. Some people say that if your conviction rate isn't a certain number, then you're not a good DA, but some people say, well, that could be also that he's being fair. So, you know, there's a lot of considerations here when you talk about what a DA, what a good DA is. And so, you know, we'll see what happens.
You know, the time has saved you. The bell rang, and I'm getting signs that we're wrapping this up. We're going to pick this up, but I definitely want about the bill. Want to talk more and follow exactly. I'm going to do some digging and see exactly how far you've done. I trust you. I know you tell me the truth. So for now, I'm Gerson Borrero. I want to thank Assemblyman Sepúlveda for once again joining us here at City and State TV, and we'll see you the next time.